What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 16, episode 5. And baby, Kenya! Oh, Kenya! Jesus! When I tell y'all this, my nerves were so bad watching this episode, it was like watching a horror movie. Like, I was just waiting for the jump scare. And then production, they are foul. Okay, for us only having like 3 minutes left of the episode, and then you want to cut to commercial. I said, "Oh, my stomach was in knots, y'all, knots." Oh, Jesus. But let's talk about this episode. So y'all know sometimes before we get into it, we get a little spicy, just a little bit, okay? And I just got a few things to talk to y'all about, so let's get into it. So let's start off with Kelly first because it definitely is looking like Kelly is really rocking with Kenya. So on last Wednesday, she posted for Woman Crush Wednesday a video of her at Kenya's hair salon. It was like the scene that we saw of her when her and Kenya sat down to talk. And she captioned this. She says, "It's hashtag WCW, just crushing on some peaches." She said, "Today's mindset, believe in yourself, believe in your capacity to do great and good things. Believe that no mountain is so high that you cannot climb it. Believe that no storm is great that you cannot weather it. Believe in yourself. Girl, you got this." And it's a video of them, like I said, at Kenya's salon. I'm not going to play the music because it's Shamia's song, but it's definitely given that Kelly is rocking with Kenya because on Monday, she made a post of her outfit that she wore at Kenya's salon when she met up with Kenya and Portia. And she had a couple of graphics in there taking shots at Britt. So the caption says Monday mood, one thing's for sure and two things for certain. And then she has, the dress, the shoes, the bag, the makeup. Like she's shouting out everybody who did, her ensemble. So then one of the graphics she posted is, "I try my best to be the friend that I want somebody to be to me." Then there's another post of her with Kenya, Portia, the security guard, Brooklyn, and they all look really nice together. And then the last graphic, or the second to last graphic, before there's another picture of herself, she has defending somebody and then experiencing why nobody likes them is humbling. And I said, ooh. When I tell you, I am really interested in seeing why Britt and Kelly fell out, because all throughout this episode, Kelly was doing what I would consider like a good friend to do. Taking up for their friend when they saw something they didn't like as it pertains to their friend. She walked away. She tried her best. So I'm just wondering what happened to make them shift in such a way where she really isn't supporting her anymore. So, since I'm talking about Britt, let's continue with her. So, Britt posted a video of herself in her confessional, I guess, playing around with her glam squad. And she captioned it saying, "And I'm still here with a trophy and a chess piece." So, I guess she's like, I'm making winner moves or chess moves. Then Portia commented saying "still" with the fire emoji, and then Britt responded to Portia saying that part. So I can't play the music because it's over the, I think it's a Beethoven instrumentals with the song that goes dun 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 dun, but the words are like B what the F, B what the F, B what the F. So yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't even think Portia really likes Britt Edie. I feel like Portia is doing whatever production wants her to do. And what I mean by that is it doesn't even really seem like this seems like it came out of nowhere. That's the problem. That's why it doesn't feel like genuine, because we haven't seen the relationship develop with Portia and Britt yet. That this feels like production wants Portia to click up with Britt because they want to make sure that like they made the right decision, because right now a lot of people aren't feeling her. But I feel like because Portia has such a big fan base, they believe that Britt and Portia might be able to, like, turn the tides, because it feels weird. It feels weird to me. So next, let's talk about Cynthia being on Watch What Happens Live Sunday night. So it was Cynthia and Danielle Brooks. She is so pretty to me. That is such a beautiful lady. Okay, she's just so pretty to me. But Cynthia was asked two questions that I thought were interesting. She was asked about more things, but these are the two that I saw that were being shopped around online that I thought were interesting. The first one was Andy asking Cynthia, how does she feel about Bravo's choice to stop filming with Kenya? And after they did their investigation. So Andy's letting it be known that the network did do two investigations, one on Britt and one on Kenya. So let me play that clip for you guys. Also, y'all, why did Cynthia had this fedora on her head? All I could think about was Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal. I said, girl, if you don't take that off your head.
What was your reaction to Bravo's investigation of both incidents and then the decision to stop shooting with Kenya?
Shocked. I think most of the cast was shocked. We were totally shocked. We didn't know, what, if anything, was going to happen, to be honest. And it wasn't
gonna
easy.
drink this whole time. I'm telling you.
But it was also sad because we didn't want to lose Kenya off the season. We didn't because she's a big player on the show.
I didn't want to lose Kenya
I
either.
know, all those good, confessionals and stuff, all those shady, funny things. And it's like, for us, it's like I keep saying, I felt like, you guys, the network, you guys did such a good job, had such a great vision for season 16, putting this specific cast together. And it's just so unfortunate that the fans didn't get to see it play out with the cast, including Kenya.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that Andy, like I said before I played the clip, is letting it be known, like, no, y'all, we did do an investigation. So don't be trying to say we didn't do one, because we did. We did one on both ladies. And this is the conclusion that we came up with. I don't know. I think we have a good chance of seeing Kenya come back for season 17 if she doesn't do too much online, because we're going to talk about that. But it's nice to know that the ladies didn't want Kenya to go, because in my mind, I feel like if they were going to get rid of Kenya, they should have also got rid of Britt. If Britt was going to stay, Kenya should have stayed, and we should have saw everything play out. That's just my opinion. But yeah, so moving on, let's talk about Kenya and Cynthia's relationship. So Andy asked Cynthia, so when's the last time you guys had a conversation? And this is Cynthia's response about Kenya.
When was the last time you spoke to Kenya?
Since the whole incident happened.
Really?
No, I haven't. But you know what?
Did you reach out to her?
Of course I did.
Really?
I sent her a text. We texted back and forth a little bit, and then I had to go out of town, and I texted her again when I got back.
Do you think she was surprised?
And I called her, but I'm here. I just want, just to make it clear that that's okay. I respect people's space, and Kenya knows that I'm here whenever she wants to talk.
Do you think she was surprised that you said on camera, like, that was bad, that was bad?
I think Cynthia did the right thing.
Thank you.
She was a woman, honey. She did the right thing to get on out of there. Get on out of there. And I support that. We don't want to tear each other down. We want to have fun. We want to be a little messy, just a little bit. But not like where we're really tearing somebody down. So I really just applaud you for, walking out and be the first one to say,
Thank you so much. I don't know if she was surprised, but Kenya knows that I hold her to a certain standard.
Yeah.
Because I know her and I know what she's trying to do with her life as, as a businesswoman, as a mom.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this was not a step in the right direction.
Right.
So I agree with Cynthia. Now, I did talk about Cynthia being on her media tour right now. Check out my latest The Drama video. I talked about Shamia, Leah McSweeney, suing Bravo, PK versus a well-known YouTuber on here, and all of that stuff. I'll put the thumbnail on the screen. But in there, I have the same opinions here. I think Cynthia is right to say, you know what? My friend is better than this. I think she's better than this. And I don't think this was the way to go. And I also feel like some people forget that they also have a reputation to protect too, because them aligning themselves with Kenya and her actions could give them consequences. So I don't think Cynthia is throwing Kenya under the bus by saying, no, I didn't agree with it, but I love my friend and I think highly of her. And, even though we haven't spoken in time, I know she just needs time to really marinate on this. Well, Kenya wasn't happy with this response, because shout out to the RHOA Talk. They got Kenya responding to this with the rolling eyes emoji. And I'm like, Kenya, don't isolate yourself, please. So let's talk about Kenya. Y'all, why did I wake up on Monday and found out that I was blocked by Kenya? I said, I got blocked. What did I say? And mind y'all, I'm not messy on Twitter. And what I mean by that, like, I give my opinion. My opinion may be messy, but I never go out my way and at the women on Real Housewives. I think that's weird. And I think that most of the time when people do it, they have like malicious intent. Like they just want to hurt the person, or they just want to be unnecessarily messy. Like when Dr. Heavenly quote tweeted me, she quote tweeted me without me adding her. I just hit the hashtag behind my tweets. So I was just like, girl, what did I say? I went through my tweets. I did not say nothing mean or bad about Kenya, other than I said, girl, you did too much. Maybe that's why she blocked me, because I said she did too much. I don't know. I was just like, she really blocked me. Oh my gosh. But let's talk about Kenya. So after Kenya saw a few of the things that Cynthia said, she actually retweeted one of Nene's videos where she talked about Cynthia on Watch What Happens Live. So let me play that video for you guys.
And they do something wrong or something you don't like, I don't think you align yourself with the enemy. I think that you stick with your friend and you say, look, we were friends. I liked you. You did this and I did not like that. But at the end of the day, you're not going to align yourself with the enemy.
So I guess Kenya feels like Cynthia is aligning herself with the enemy, especially when it comes to her. It seems like, I don't know if Cynthia is building a friendship with Britt Edie, but she's definitely trying to remain neutral. And I guess Kenya is like, girl, pick a side. Pick a side, ma'am. So, moving on, let's talk about Kenya's statement that she posted to her Instagram. And shouts out to Jay's reality blog. So it starts off like this. Kenya said, "You have been my besties for the last 12 years, and I love and appreciate you so much. Last year, you cried with me when all of my hard work for my salon was cut by production and none of it was shown. I want to thank all of my friends who showed up for me and supported me on a regular basis, who loved me down. At Mrs. Lawrence, thank you for gracing us all with your presence. You are a star. I hope to turn our segment into a TV show, God willing. Special thanks to my event planner, Events by Monette, who always throws the most stunning events. Thank you to the gorgeous models who helped make Kenya Moore hair care so iconic. To the cast of RHOA season 16, I wish you all an incredible season. To my friends and family, thank you for loving me, flaws and all. Thank you to all the stunning women who have patronized at Kenya Moore Hair Spa. I love making you look beautiful. Love and blessings to all of you." And then she has praying hands and a tornado, probably representing life twirls on. So a couple of people dropped down in the comments for supports. Notable Bravo celebrities. You have Candace, Lisa Milan, Sheree Whitfield. You got Dennis saying Detroit. You got Shamia showing her love and support. You have Ming Lee, Chanel Ayan from Real Housewives of Dubai. You have Dr. Heavenly, and Claudia Jordan said this: "Your spot was beautiful and the event was amazing, and I was so proud of you. You looked stunning, and I hate you had to suffer in silence this long while people pushed an incomplete version of the whole story. SMH again." So then you have her friend, I think it's her name, Akila or Akila, the light-skinned lady we saw last season that was at Kenya's hair spa before, we actually saw it being done. She said this: "All I'm saying is you were provoked and antagonized for 4 episodes. You were the best version of yourself during every single encounter with every single cast member. The moment the threat was made was the moment action should have been taken. Instead, you were called a liar and told you didn't hear what you heard. Everyone involved played in your face. So what's a girl to do? I don't blame you for taking matters into your own hands and finding out where the skeletons are buried. While I'm here, a friend to everyone is a friend to no one. Don't stab me, then try to control the bleeding." So she rocking with Kenya 10 toes down. And then the last person was, Tanisha from the Bad Girls Club. She said this: "Honestly, they should have chalked this up to one big misunderstanding and attempt to move on, since the energy was completely different when you were threatened first. I felt you when you talked about risking it all for Brooklyn, hoping the business flourishes beyond your wildest expectations, always rooting for you to win." You also had Dr. Contessa with Kenya Moore Hair Care. And then you had LaToya Forever saying yes. So Kenya got some people in her corner. You know, she's not just alone. Now, moving on, let's talk about Andy. So Andy was on his radio show, and a lot of people were upset about his response to what happened between Britt and Kenya. So let me play that for you guys.
At the end of last week's episode, like, I have a gun and a whip or something like that.
I saw that.
And on this week's episode, they all said to Britt that you can't say that shit. And she was like, yeah, you're right, you know, whatever. She shows up to Kenya's opening of her gorgeous salon, which is beautiful, that Kenya has worked so hard on, that she dedicated to her daughter. And it's this big event, opening it with all these people there. And Britt comes in and brings her flowers and says, I want to apologize to you, and a note. And Kenya totally ignores her, like totally. And Britt's like, okay, I'm just going to leave these here. And Britt leaves. And then Kenya gets up and makes her whole opening about someone came after me and they shouldn't have, and I started looking into who this woman is, and this is who she is, and she starts showing pictures of her.
Like poster board that she printed
And this is like
one of the pictures is
revenge
her.
porn type.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the pictures is her, like,
Oral sexing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard
and
that.
so the Atlanta Housewives are like, we're out. We don't want any. The place like clears out.
Yeah.
And then there's and Cynthia said in all my time at the show, this is the lowest I've ever seen anything get. And
Now, what is this glitter bracelet you have on underneath?
It's glitter tape. Ben put it on me. He covered me in
Sorry,
glitter
it's
tape this
very
weekend.
eye-catching and beautiful.
I know, it actually is. It's
I
glitter
like-
tape.
I like it.
Isaac
It's
gets it
diamonds.
for Ben, yeah.
I like
I
that.
have glitter tape everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Put it on my coat.
Oh my God. Anyway, so that's what, you know, and then there's a slide at the end of the show that says, Bravo, stop filming with Kenya after this.
But you know, they say, like, you know, there's all this talk of, you know, after the Me Too movement, it's like if you show someone a dick pic or a nude pic without them saying, yes, I would like to see that right now, that's like sexual assault. You can't just go around being like, hey, someone did it to me the other day. I was at a workout class and they were like, hey, look at this guy from last night. And I was like, I didn't ask to see that right now.
Right. Yes, Jordan?
Well, I was going to say, the bad part of it and the sad part of it was that, like you said, it was Kenya's opening of her store that she worked so hard for, and it has been Kenya Moore hair care for years, and it was like a big moment for her.
Why'd
and
she
like
do that?
she should have been celebrating herself, but instead she used the time to like do revenge porn and bring somebody else down. And at the end of the day, it was such a bad look for Kenya.
Yeah, why would
and
she
she
do that?
sabotaged herself and her business.
Yeah. What's she thinking?
So Kenya responded to this in the Bravo Shade Room's comment section because they reposted the clip, and she said this: the two co-hosts are extremely ignorant. Sexual assault is RAPE. Remember, that's what Phaedra accused Candy of attempting to do to Portia. Revenge PRN. If someone showed Kim K's sex tape to you, is that revenge PRN? I found that plus tons of others online. She signed a release for it, so it's fair. Receipt. Warning, if you are not an attorney and familiar with Georgia law, then STFU. Sick of the bias and selective outrage. These comments should not have aired. It's a podcast. Where is legal? It goes on to say, you don't want activated Kenya. I shouldn't have shown at my event, but for the love of God, why would they ignore a clear gun threat? Now, I don't know if this is really Kenya because the grammar is off, to be honest. But maybe it is her. It seems like she was very angry with what they said because they compared what she did to, you know, SA, which does have a serious consequences. I think they meant to say sexual harassment. But yeah, if I was Kenya, I would just be quiet. And the reason why I say that is if you're going to come back to the network, doing all this carrying on makes you look hypocritical. The same way with Nene. But if you are going to take like legal actions against them, then do what you got to do. But I also feel like her antics online are also kind of weird. She posted this AI generated picture from a Kenya Stan account that said justice for Kenya, and it has duct tape over the mouth. And I was like, girl, I just want Kenya to be smart about how she plays this, because right now it's not looking too good. And I want Kenya to be back for season 17, but with the way that she's behaving online, I feel like this really might be the last time we see Kenya on, you know, Bravo. Maybe we'll see her on another network, but I don't know. I definitely hope we get to see her at the reunion though. Episode, I just want to say thank you. So my channel has officially reached 2,000 subscribers, and that's a wild thing to think about. That means 2,000 people decided, you know what, I like you. I like what you're putting out there, and I appreciate y'all. I really do. Like for real. When I saw the number, I said, wow. The same way when I saw 1,000, same way when I saw 500, I was just like, wow. Okay, so I appreciate y'all, even the people that don't agree with my content that are respectful. Because there's a few of y'all that are disrespectful, and I be like, "Why you over here if you don't like me like that?" But you got to, if you keep coming back over here to comment. I don't understand, you know what I mean. But yeah, I just want to say thank y'all for real, like for real. I appreciate the likes, I appreciate the comments, the shares, all of that. Thank you. Okay, but let's get into this episode because, like I said, y'all, I had my nerves bad. Okay. My nerves. Ooh, I should have been drinking while I was watching it because my chest was like tight. It was legit, like I said, like watching a horror movie where I was just like, oh my god, it's about to happen. Jesus. Let's talk about it. So the episode opens up and we see Angela and Britt at Shamia's house. Angela gets there first. Shamia is happy that Angela took her olive branch. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like that. Like, I thought the gesture was nice, but the execution was a no ma'am for me because I was like, girl, did you get a dirty branch outside of your house and put it in a new bottle of olive oil? Olive oil is expensive, okay? The good kind of olive oil. But then again, that looked like it was Walmart brand. So it's probably like $3 or something, like maybe $3 or $4. But I was just like, girl, where the cap at? Is she just supposed to walk around with olive oil with a stick in it in the elements? I just like, you messed up a good bottle of olive oil. But I do think the gesture was nice. We see Brittany get there. Oh, Britt. Is her real name Brittany? No, it probably is Britt. I don't know. But she gets there and she complains about how she wasn't able to sleep last night. I was like, I would hope not because you showed the blackest part of your ass on last week's episode. So she's just like, yeah, you guys, we just have to talk. So Shamia's giving them something to drink. And then next thing you know, Angela lets it be known that she got chewed out by the event space owners. And I was like, oh, girl, that means Britt was in that parking lot doing the utmost because that man or woman said, girl, our establishment may be in the hood, but take that ghetto mess somewhere else. Okay, we running a business here. Take it somewhere else. Because I'm just like, girl, for the owners to chew Angela out, oh, you was doing a lot. You were doing the utmost. The utmost, Britt. So then as they're sitting there, Shamia's like, girl, what happened? Because you just kept going on and on and on and on and on about with your back and forth with Kenya. And after a while, she kind of just stopped talking to you. So then Britt basically said something about feeling like Kenya cut her off. But I think Shamia said that. Shamia said something about, the only thing I didn't like was like, it felt like you guys were cutting each other off. And Britt was like, yeah, she cut me off. But then when they show the flashback, Kenya didn't cut you off. You finished reading the question off the card. And then Kenya responded. Your question was like, Kenya, can you speak nicely to Britt? And Kenya's response was like, I can speak nicely to everybody. And then Britt was like, this question is pertaining to me. They're talking about me. Can you not hear? Can you not hear? And Kenya was like, again, girl, I can speak nicely to everybody, and I'm not about to give you a moment. So what in that flashback gave that Kenya was over talking Britt? It didn't give that. So then Britt goes on to say that, like, she took things too far. She also says she doesn't want Kenya to feel intimidated by her. And I was like, you did all you did. You did what you did because you wanted her to be intimidated, because you were mad that she bested you in a verbal argument and you didn't have no response. Because normally when people don't have a response, like, their initial reaction is to either walk away or to get violent. And you couldn't handle it, so then you started referring to your firearm. We also find out that Angela is the one that wrote the question. So I guess it wasn't production, and I guess it wasn't Britt, because I think I said in my last video that I thought Britt wrote 2 questions. But Angela's like, no, I wrote that question. And Britt, you could tell, wanted Angela to validate her feelings or her energy towards Kenya's, because she was like, so you feel the same way that she's been kind of weird towards me? And Angela did not say that. Angela said, well, after we had that conversation when we was in the park, I just wanted to acknowledge your feelings. Basically saying, girl, I didn't see what you see or get what you mean about Kenya. I just wanted you to know that you were being supported by a friend. So that's why I wrote down the question, so you could hear from Kenya's mouth that you tripping, because she don't got no issue with you. Because it was interesting that Britt was like, so you feel what I'm feeling? And she was like, no, I just wanted to acknowledge your feelings. She know you was tripping. That lady know you was tripping. So that's when Britt said she didn't want Kenya to feel intimidated by her. Then Shamia asks Britt, so do you like have sisters or siblings or anything like that? And she was like, yeah, I have 2 sisters. And she was like, do y'all argue like this? And Britt was like, yeah, we get a little fiery or stuff like that, but like we love each other, so I don't ever take it like what they're saying to me that seriously. So I'm just kind of like, this makes me feel like whatever Britt told us about the whole insurance business with her older sister quitting because she didn't like the way that Britt spoke to her, and then her middle sister that we met, I think that's the one that's named Cher. Their situation is giving very much so that like, girl, y'all be talking to each other crazy, like out of pocket and out of line, and it adds more context to why your older sister quit, because you probably was doing the utmost, girl, the utmost. So they move on from that because Britt says she definitely needs to apologize to Kenya. And both Angela and Shamia was like, girl, you gonna need to do more than just like a simple apology. You gonna really have to fall on the sword. So then Shamia brings up Portia and Angela's situation, where Portia says she knew something about Charles, like, or she heard something about Charles. And then Angela was like, so what is it? And Portia was like, no, I'm not gonna say anything. And so Angela basically says that I wanted to know what she was talking about. She was like, not much can like knock me off my rocker because I'm married to a celebrity. My DMs are flooded, but I just wanted her to say to me, like, what do you know? Which I understand, because that would annoy me too. Don't tell me that you know something about my significant other, and then when I ask you, you're just like, no, girl, I'm not going to tell you, because that would get me pissed off. Okay, it really was. So then Britt ends up saying, I don't know how you were able to get through that, because if someone says something to me about my husband and I ask you what's going on and you don't tell me, I'll probably slap him. So then they was like, girl, and don't get me wrong, we all say things like that, like, girl, I wanted to slap so-and-so today because they was getting on my nerves. But after you just threaten somebody with a firearm, you might want to keep the whole, verbal attacks that are associated with you getting physical with people to a minimum. To a minimum, ma'am. Okay. But they move on from that conversation. So then the next scene we have is of Kenya, Kelly, and Portia. They're meeting up at her hair salon. And it's interesting because Kenya and Portia are there first together. Portia gets there first, and they're having a good time laughing at each other, joking with one another. And Portia says in her confessional that she likes the vibe that they have going on, and she hopes that it stays like this. But you see her behavior is different now that they're on the off season. And I wonder if like production is pushing their relationship together for Portia and Britt to be friends, because I said this in the spicy corner, but I'm thinking about how Portia was behaving at the Breakfast Club, where she said Britt said something dangerous and Kenya did something even more dangerous. And I'm just wondering if production is trying their best to justify them keeping Britt around, so they want Portia to link up with her so that it kind of like sells her to us. But I think it's doing the opposite effect. On top of that, it's like y'all are trying to make fetch happen, and I don't think it's gonna happen, y'all. So we then see Kelly get there, and Kenya's like, are you two gonna be good? Because she knows that they had a back and forth, but they're like, no, we're gonna be good, girl. We're gonna be good. So then we actually see Kelly in her confessional being like, she likes Kenya. She was like, she don't know what Britt and Kenya got going on, but I like her. She's having a fun time with her. They talk about how much of a sucky host Kenya can be. We even get a flashback to when Tanya and Marlo were chasing Kenya around the Airbnb they were at when they were, I think, in Savannah, because she was eating and she hadn't gotten anybody else any food, and they was getting pissed off at her. So we actually see them look at models that are supposed to be walking at the Kenya Moore hair like grand opening. So they're looking at the models, they're having a good time. So then they start talking about what happened at the vault event with Britt and Kenya. And you could tell that Kenya was really happy that Portia was standing up for her. Like, she was just smiling like from ear to ear, okay? And Portia was making sense. That's how you know you wrong, if Portia is making sense, because she was like, Kenya had disengaged and Britt was still going on and on about it. And she was like, at some point she mentioned a firearm, like something that like nothing happened or transpired to happen for her to mention that. That was a lot. So Kelly's trying to be a good friend and being like, well, that's not the person I know. I've never seen her behave that way. And Kenya kind of cuts Kelly off, and she basically says like, girl, that's BS. Like, I don't know what has happened between us for her to come at me like that. I have done nothing to her to warrant that behavior, for her to threaten me in such a way. And she was like, at this point, it was too aggressive and she was doing too much. And Kelly's still trying to be like, but that's not who. And Kenya's like, girl, you may not know her, but that's what she showed me. And that's valid. Like, I get where Kelly is coming from, where she's like, me and her have been friends for at least like 2 or 3 years, I'm guessing. And she's just like, I've never seen her behave in that way, which is true for Kelly. Like, she's never seen her behave that way, but she's behaved that way towards Kenya, and Kenya has only known her at this point for 3 weeks. So her opinion of her is definitely not a positive one. So you, as much as you're trying to convince her that that's not your friend, that's what your friend showed her. So Kenya basically says, girl, I'm about to run me a background check. That's what I'm about to do. I'm about to run me a background check. And Kelly was like, Kenya, you need to run a background check on the hairstylist, not her. It's like, but I'm like, Kelly, you should be taking this seriously, because you had your ex-husband threaten you in front of a judge to take your life. And you have a restraining order and a security guard walking around with you full time. So if anything, you should low-key, in my opinion, be on Kenya's side, because even though friend or not, she did too much, bro. She did way too much. So Kenya was like, you know what, girl, I'm just going, on that note, I'm going to just twirl on my haters, and because all the girls are trying to hate on me, but I'm going to get a background check on her. I'm getting a background check. So the next thing we have is with Angela and her daughter, Amari. So Amari's 24. We find out that the girl want to open up a coffee shop. Cute. You know, it's supposed to be a Peruvian coffee shop. We also find out that Angela and Amari have kind of it's just been the two of them since she was 7 years old, because unfortunately Amari's father was murdered when they were living in Chicago. Sound like gun violence. So she was like, Amari's my best friend. I said, you may think she's your best friend, but she don't think that way about you, ma'am. So the conversation continues. We find out that the grandmother was supposed to come with them to the coffee shop, but she decided to not come. She declined. And Amari was just like, I thought we was going to get to some things. We find out that the grandmother and Amari got into it in conjunction with the aunt getting into it with Amari as well. Amari showed up to the grandma's house wanting to use her car. The grandmother, I guess, was cool with it, but then also started bringing up money. Amari and the grandmother got into it, and then the aunt jumped in and called Amari a demon. Angela was like, she called you a demon? Why didn't you tell me this? And Amari was just like, girl, it was a lot going on at that time. She was like, I just can't believe all of that took place, all because I wanted to use the car. And she was like, you know how much I've done for them? Like, I've helped pay bills. And then what you've done for them, you bought the house, you have the car. I think you need to cut them off. So Angela was like, so hold on now. I'm just not going to cut my mama off. She was like, we definitely need to have a conversation with them, because the way they spoke to you is not okay. So then we find out that Angela's mom has bipolar disorder. And she says, you know, growing up, it was tough because it sounds like it probably has just been diagnosed. But she was just like, she's proud of her mom, because she was like, her mom says she's healed now. Makes me feel like the lady on a good pill regimen. Stay on that medication, Angela's mom. But she basically said that now my mom says she's healed. And, you know, she used to use bipolar disorder as a crutch as to like explain her behavior. So the conversation continues, and that's when we find out that Angela did like buy her mom a house and buy the car. She was like, that's what a child is supposed to do for their parents. But then I'm also like, Angela, you kind of contradicting yourself, because if you're a multimillionaire or a self-made millionaire, why haven't you or Charles bought Amari a car? Like, it don't have to be a brand new car, but it definitely could be a used car, because every car I have ever owned, my parents have purchased for me. So I'm just like, and also, even though they bought it for me, that's still my car. So if they want to use it, they still ask me. Just like I wouldn't just show up to my grandma's house and be like, hey, I'm taking your car. That is that lady's car. I'm not just going to take my grandmother's car without asking whether or not my parents purchased it for them or not. Like, that logic didn't make sense to me with Amari. And I'm just like, where is your car, ma'am? Like, what's going on here? So she was just like, yeah, it was a lot that transpired. So now Angela's like getting emotional, saying, you know, now I have to protect you because you my child against my mom and my sister. And I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So then they started talking about Amari. We found out that she got married. And didn't tell Angela. So they do a flashback. It was like 2 weeks ago, and Angela's like, well, why wouldn't you tell me? Like, why wouldn't you tell me you got married? Like, what's going on? And she was like, well, we just did it. And she was just like, Yeah, but why wouldn't you tell me, girl? So then Angela, as sitting at the table, starts to get emotional, where she was like, girl, why wouldn't you tell me you getting married? And Amari's like, why are you making it such a big deal? And Angela's like, girl, it is a big deal. And she was like, this has really dampened our communication with each other. So she starts crying. So then Amari was like, well, how did you find out about it? And she was like, grandma told me. And so Amari's like, so we just throwing me under the bus, I guess. And I was like, well, no, that's a valid thing to tell somebody else's mom, you know? So then Angela starts to harp because Amari was just like, y'all are making it a bigger deal than I did. And Angela's like, well, why are you behaving this way? Like it's not a big deal. You got married and you're acting like my feelings aren't valid. So then all of a sudden Amari starts crying, talking about like, this is too much. This is too much. I feel like it's gang up on Amari Day. And I said, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Your mom has a valid complaint. Like you ran off and got married and didn't tell her. And she found out from her family, her mother, that you got married 4 months later, which makes me think like, how bad was the argument? Because I'm like, you trusted your grandmother enough to tell her that you got married and not your mom. Like there's a break in communication here. I don't know if Angela doesn't like the person that she got married to, because I did see some people on Twitter saying that they said she's a lesbian, but I went to her Instagram and I didn't see nothing that would correlate to that. That don't mean the lady not one. But I'm just kind of like, is that why you didn't tell your mom? Or did you marry someone that your mom doesn't like? And because when I went to her Instagram, there is nothing that shows that she got married. And I would think, when you get married, whether like you want people to know or not, people always do like, you know, non-face pictures, like, you know, the holding of the hands or a picture of the 2 rings on like, I don't know, the marriage license or something, or a bouquet. I've seen people do that when they don't want you to like see all of like their faces. So I was just kind of like, did y'all annul the marriage, or you realize what you did was messed up, or you just don't want your significant other to be known online? I don't know. Something about that just is weird to me, because most people that get married, even if they elope, they're excited to tell people, whether their parents agree with it or not. So the fact that you waited 4 months is kind of weird to me. But that's just me. With Portia and Britt. Honestly, I feel like by this time in the episode, we should have had a sit down with with Kenya and Britt. I think it's crazy that they kept filming after that situation. I honestly believe they should have like paused filming for a week, let people calm down, do your investigation, and then commence filming after that. The fact that it seems like they did not wait is crazy. It's crazy. Like someone just threatened somebody with a firearm. Y'all should have paused filming for a minute. So we end up seeing them have a conversation. And this is how you know you wrong, Britt, is when Knock 'Em Out Portia is reprimanding you. The person we've seen snatch Kenya by her hair, the same person we've seen run down an alleyway and bop somebody upside their head, the same person we see get punted in the pussy by Cynthia on a boat, and the same person who we saw in Mexico, like family jump her baby daddy and almost the father of her child's mother. Like, we saw that lady throw plates, a boom mic, everything, and she's telling you went too far. Girl, you did a lot. You did a lot. So the conversation continues where they sit down and Portia is just like, girl, what happened? She was like, I thought you and Kenya were okay. Britt tries to say like, yeah, there's no excuse for my behavior. I took it too far with Kenya. She goes on to say that, you know, it was just all of my triggers came on at once. So then Portia is like, what happened between you and Kenya? Because I thought y'all was cool. Y'all was sitting next to each other at Shamia's house. Y'all were cool at Kelly's event. And then this happens. So then she brings up how she feels like Kenya be acting weird towards her. Like the whole, like, you have a wedding ring, but where's your wedding band? And I said, girl, what? No, I think it was like, you're married, but where's your wedding band? I said, you still bothered by that? You are still bothered by that lady bringing that up. You are unwell, okay? And so Britt is like, yeah, I feel like she just has an energy around me. So then Portia's like, well, why is she treating you that way? Because I asked everyone about that conversation, and most people are like, it wasn't a shady conversation. And Britt was like, no, it was dismissive and she was being nasty. So then Portia is like, well, why do you feel like she treats you that way when it seems like she's cool with everybody else? Like, she's fine with Kelly, she's fine with Angela. And she was like, well, I think Kenya feels like she has to put on for an audience. I said, girl, who are you to be putting on for anybody? This is not season 12 of Real Housewives, where I feel like Kenya would have, like, not even have to put on, but I could see her putting on. That cast was with Nene, Candy, Marlo, Eva, Portia, Cynthia, like, who we had Yavanna from Clark AU, we had Marlo, like, we had a cast, girl. That was a cast. That is who I can see Kenya trying to put on for, but not for you three new people who your jobs were not solidified. Your jobs are still not solidified till after the reunion. So I'm just like, girl, go on somewhere. Go talking about she got to put on for you. So then Portia was just like, I feel like you had preconceived notions about this lady, because she was like, I know you might think you were getting like the queen bitch that is Kenya, but like that's not the type of time she seemed to be on. And Portia even said in her confessional, she was just like, I think Britt thought she was getting a certain type of Kenya, but Kenya don't want to play them games anymore. And they do a flashback to all the times we seen Kenya and Portia get into it. And you could tell that Kenya did come into this season with a different type of energy. And you could tell that Britt did have preconceived notions about Kenya. And like I've said in my last video, I think Britt thought either Kenya was going to welcome her with open arms, which she was totally fine with, but if she felt any slight from Kenya, she was automatically going to go on the defense. And that's what happened. Because I'm just like, that conversation y'all had about the wedding rings were not that deep for you to be holding on to this. And we're like a month into filming. You're like, it's like, what? Are you serious? Are you serious, girl? So then Portia basically said, girl, you can never bring up having a firearm again. And Britt was trying to act like, well, she wasn't going to do anything. And Portia says, but we don't know that to be true if you're not going to do nothing. Like, how would it look for me to say, I wish I had my pistol on me after having a conversation with Drew and we just got into an argument at Shamia's house? Drew's going to think that's meant for her. Just like Kenya thought it was meant for her. And it's so crazy to me that this lady lied to us for almost 11 months. When she got online saying, I hate that y'all are trying to spread this narrative, and I'm paraphrasing, she was like, I've never had a firearm or was in possession of any weapons. Like, I never threatened anybody, only for us to see it in 4K. That to me, if I was Bravo, would make me weary of Britt. Because, girl, you blatantly lied. Like, blatantly lied. And you went on a media tour lying. Like, that means she could lie on y'all too. Okay? So the conversation ends there with pretty much Britt saying she needs to make it right with Kenya. See, is Angela getting ready for Kenya's spa event, and Angela tells Charles about what Portia said. Charles don't care. Charles is like, I don't know who Portia is. I don't care. Is she the feds? Like, did you handle it? Like, because who is she? Like, who is she? And she was just like, I talked to her, Charles. I was like, you didn't talk to her, girl. You kind of paid her dust, okay? And Angela says in her confessional, she thinks that people think that Charles is like her sweet spot, so they try to like crack her with telling like lies or stuff about him, but that's not the case for her. But Charles was just like, I don't know who Portia is and I don't care, and like she need to chill out on talking about me. So then we see Charles, and I'm telling you, Charles do know how to cook because that food look good. He's like cooking, and then you see Angela wash her hands. It's like 11 seconds later, and she's about to eat a piece of chicken or give it to their son, and he was like, wash your hands. And I'm like, did you not see her wash her hands? I was like, do you have onset dementia, sir? But what are you just not paying attention? Like, what's going on, Charles? What's going on? So then Angela tries to talk to Charles about her family, and Charles is like, I don't know why you talking to me about this. Like, I don't even talk to my sister. So why are you talking about this with me? Like, girl, you know how I feel about your family. And I'm gonna be honest, I said this on Twitter, the way my mouth is set up, me and Charles would be arguing. Because what you're not about to do is make me feel dismissed, and what you're not about to do is disregard me. But then on the other hand, Angela to me gives the type of person that just be running their mouth, but they never act on it. And I feel like Charles is like, girl, you always talking about how your family gets on your nerves and they work your nerves, but yet you never do nothing about it. Because the way she looked at him, and I was like, yeah, girl, you give that that you beat a dead horse. Like, if you really got issues with your mom and your sister, have a conversation with them. Actually put into action the things that you said you're going to do, because it feels like you the type of person, like I said, that just talks about things over and over, but you don't do nothing about it. The way your daughter played in your face and cried after you brought up valid reasons why you are upset, and you have a valid reason to be upset that your child got married and didn't tell you, makes me feel like, Angela, you not really about the way you say you are. Like, you can give the other girls fever, but you can't give Charles or your family, like your children and your mom and your sister, the same fever, where you probably need to, because it feels like people kind of walk all over you in your like personal life. Time for the horror show. Jesus. Okay. So we see Cynthia. We find out that she was out of town when everything went down at the vault. So she's just here, happy to be around the ladies. You know, she's proud of Kenya. She remembers her days with the coochie crack situation with Kenya. And she's just like, she knows Kenya has been working tremendously hard on this salon, and so she just wants to make sure everything goes great, but she's here to support her girl. We then see Shamia pull up, and Shamia had a funny moment where she was like, oh girl, I thought all of this was for me. Then we see Kenya pull out of the car. She steps out, the crowd is there, they're taking pictures, the girls are waving the pom-poms, and then we see a picture of Portia, Kenya, Shamia, and Cynthia in front of, like, they have like a poster board where people can take pictures. So King is just talking about, like, this is really important to me. I've been working on this. All of this is for my daughter. I want her to know that she can be a boss as well. We also see Mrs. Lawrence. So Mrs. Lawrence pulls up. Kenya and Mrs. Lawrence have a sit down and they talk, and he basically says, I'll say they because I don't know their pronouns. They basically say, you know, you have done so much for me. Like, I wouldn't be the person I am today or be who I am in the industry if you hadn't given me the opportunity. They also talk about how, like, you're the first person to tell me how to put clip-ons on the tracks. So they laugh about that. They show a flashback to Mrs. Lawrence and Mrs. J. I think that's Mrs. J with the hit. Like, I miss them. I miss them. They were the added flair to Real Housewives of Atlanta. The early seasons of Real Housewives of Atlanta, they just ate. They were something special. Okay. So they're having their conversation. Kenya is just like, thank you. Like, it was such a sweet moment. And like I said, it was like a horror movie, because it was just like, girl, you're getting so much props and praise. Like, you have this wonderful moment with Mrs. Lawrence where, like, they're giving you your just due. And I'm just like, okay, girl, don't mess it up. But we know she gonna mess it up. So we switch from that scene and we see Kelly and Britt pull up together, and they're in the car together. Kelly is asking Britt how she's doing, and Britt is just kind of like, you know I did wrong. I brought flowers and a card. I know I need to apologize to her. You know, she was just like, I just been feeling off. We find out that Britt's aunt passed away from a stroke. She was on life support, and then they had to take her off. And I hope this don't sound mean by any chance. I don't know that lady. R.I.P. to her. But I felt like they only shoved that in there because they wanted people to feel bad for Britt. Because when she said, oh, I just been feeling different, feeling off because this is my father's sister. So now I'm thinking about my dad. Granted, that could be actually happening to her, but what does that have to do with you threatening somebody with a firearm? Like, I don't care. You know, R.I.P. to that lady, okay? But I don't care. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, that doesn't correlate with what you did the other day, okay? You can feel off all you want, you know? But no. So she's like, I just really want to make amends and apologize to Kenya and let her know that, like, I'm not a threat. I didn't mean to make her feel unsafe and all of that stuff. So Kelly's like, what would you do without me, friend? And it was just crazy how they were having this moment, and now we know they don't even talk to each other anymore. Like, Kelly over here shading her stuff, and Britt is shading Kelly, and I'm just like, what happened? Okay, so we see the girls back at the salon. We see an actual fashion show similar to the Barner Brothers that they have all the time in Atlanta, where people do really crazy, creative things with hair. And we see a few of the ladies. They had like a Bridgerton girl, a girl that made, it was like her back of her dress was like a spider web made out of hair, and then one lady looked like she had on like a headdress for like Las Vegas made out of hair. So they have this moment. We then see Drew pull up with her sister Allison, and then while that's happening, we see Cynthia and Portia and Shamia having a conversation, and Cynthia's like, I'm gone for 1 minute, and y'all, all hell breaks loose. So Cynthia's like, so what happened? Like, what happened? Like, how did y'all like come to some type of understanding? So Shamia's like, well, I apologized to Angela and Angela apologized to me. So we moved forward. So then Portia was like, yeah, girl, you missed everything. Britt and Kenya got into it. And girl, why she mentioned a pistol? And Cynthia's like, what? She did what? For real? They're like, yeah, girl, she did. Yes, she did. So while they're talking, we see Angela and Kenya having a conversation. So Angela is just like, yeah, I just wanted to make sure you was okay, because Kenya ends up thanking Angela for texting her to check up on her. So they show the text messages across the screen. The first one says, hey Kenya, you look amazing last night. I was so grateful for your presence. I just wanted to let you know that I didn't appreciate what happened to you. So then she continues by saying, I apologize for you not feeling safe. She said, as a mother and as an elevated Black woman, I support your stance. Now see, Angela, this is where you're going to get in trouble, because you kicked off the mess and now you reaching out to Kenya. Now, I don't think she's wrong for doing that, but it's like you got to keep your good eye on people like Angela, because it feels like you're playing both sides of the fence when in this instance, like, if you texted me this, I'm going to think you on my side, not on Britt's side. You know, like it feels off for me a little bit. I got my good eye on Angela, all right? So we end up seeing Britt and Kelly pull up, and everyone's surprised because no one thought Britt was going to come, because Cynthia was like, well, hopefully Britt comes and her and Kenya are able to work it out. Portia ends up saying, like, I don't think that's going to happen because Kenya is definitely in retaliation mode. I don't think she going to be here for it. Mind you, we see Kenya downing like alcohol like a mother. Like, she is taking them shots to the head. And I said, girl, if you got to get liquid courage to do a stunt, that you shouldn't do the stunt. I feel like this was a combination of like she was scared and nervous and anxious about the event not being a success, as well as I don't think she really fully trusted what she was about to do, because I don't think you need to take multiple shots if you're really ready to read somebody. And we know Kenya don't normally do that, so I was just like, ooh, girl, this is off. So we didn't see Britt pull up. Kenya sees her and she's like, okay. Like, Kenya's like, she getting ready to do what she about to do. Everybody is surprised to see Britt and Kelly, more so Britt. So the girls are hugging on her and being like, oh my God, you actually came. Then we have this confrontation between Portia and Drew. I do not care. When I tell you I do not care, because it feels fake to me. It feels forced. Drew is trying to talk to Portia about the whole Dennis thing. She's like, girl, do you really think I want your baby daddy? Because I don't. And Portia is like, okay, Drew. And then Drew starts to do this thing that is kind of grating, where she starts to elevate her voice very airy. And she was like, so then Portia's like, girl, don't sing to me or I'll make you sing. And I said, oh, okay now. Okay now. And I'm just like, it's a lot going on right about now. But Portia basically said she don't want to have the conversation with Drew. And Drew was like, why not? Like, you asked me in front of, like, you press me in front of a group, I can press you in front of the group, which I don't think is wrong. If you going to embarrass me in front of a group, I can do it to you. But Drew says in her confessional, Portia doesn't want to talk to me. She just wants to have an issue because I've been trying my best to get in contact with her and she hasn't made herself available. Portia says that she was willing to talk to Drew, but then after finding out from Johnny that they were reaching out to him, Drew and Dennis, she no longer wants to talk to Drew because she was like, I see you for what you're trying to do. I see you for who you are, and I'm not with it. So she not with it. So then we see Kenya take another shot and walk up to the group, and she's like, hey, y'all, hugging on everybody. And you see Britt trying to give Kenya the flowers. Kenya is ignoring her. Mind you, she should have just kept that same energy. Again, I feel like they should have had a conversation before even being in each other's presence, or at the event. Like, you should have sat down with that lady. They should have sat down. I feel like production didn't do their job. Okay. Like, y'all definitely could have stopped this from going the way that it went, in my opinion. So next thing you know, you see Britt kind of just leave because Kenya is ignoring her, as she should. Girl, you threatened her with a gun. Like, you think flowers is good enough? No. So Kenya decides to get everybody's attention, and this is when my nerves got horrible, because I said, here we go, y'all. And so she gets everyone's attention. She starts thanking everybody for showing up. She's like, I really appreciate y'all and all of this stuff. So I said, Kenya, please, please. Don't do it. And so while she's getting everyone's attention, she was like, a lot of people have tried to discredit me, disrespected me. I even had a situation with somebody, and she was like, side note, these flowers, take these out there. So she gives the flowers to somebody else that, to like an assistant, I guess, to like give to somebody outside because she didn't want them flowers. And Kelly's like, Kenya, what did the flowers do to you? So Kelly takes the card to try to like, I guess keep it for Kenya. And Kenya's like, girl, I don't want that card, burn it. And she was like, but Kenya, and Kenya tells Kelly, girl, stay out of it. And she got quiet. Like she didn't even try to fight back at Kenya. So then Kenya was like, girl, everyone tries to come for me. Like, because I'm that bitch. I've been that bitch, will still be that bitch. She was like, someone threatened me with a gun and everything. And you know what I did? I paid her dust. And it automatically made me think of white chicks. When they... And so she was like, I'm going to just pay it dust. But she was like, the girl started yelling at me, talking about, I don't know who she is. Mind you, while all this is going on, Angela is in the background giggling up a storm. Like, you could tell that she wanted to laugh. So she was like, so then Kenya starts imitating Britt, talking about, you don't know who I am. You don't know who I am. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know who you are. So I looked the person up. Next thing you know, Kenya pulls up a poster board saying, who is this hoe? I said, girl, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. Jesus. And so everyone's like, girl. And next thing you know, you see the women are like, what's going on? Mind you, I feel like if this was really like a friend group or a sisterhood, or if Cynthia was that type of friend, because Cynthia is not a friend that you deal with in crisis. I feel like Candy would have stopped Kenya. Candy would have been like, girl, what are we doing? What are we doing? No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this, girl. We're not. Or she would have looked at them posters beforehand and took them posters away. Cause are you serious? Are you serious? So then Kenya starts talking about, she talking about she a video vixen, but I was a model. I wasn't no video trap queen hoe. I said, girl, the first pictures I think were of Britt Edie and her face being her original face, because one of the blurred out screens looked like a video I saw. The background looked like a video I saw on Twitter. So, and it was a video that definitely gave that she was about to go film some adult content, because she was talking about, we're about to film a steamy shower scene. And I said, okay, girl. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's nothing wrong with being a lady of the night, being a spicy worker, or doing adult content. I don't, as long as you're consenting, ain't nobody pimping you out, do you. But it definitely gives that Brit is trying to hide that portion of her like life now that she's on this show. So I'm just like, yeah, Kenya, you were trying to embarrass her because you felt threatened and embarrassed, but you went too far. We went a little too far, ma'am. Like, not even a little, a lot too far. So everyone's trying to figure out like what's going on. And like I said, had Candy been there, and heck, if even Nene, because we've seen Nene stop people from doing too much. Remember when Nene told Candy, you got businesses, when they were at the pillow talk, when she was like, I'll drag you in here. Like, Nene stopped it from Candy fighting. And I feel like if Kenya and Nene were in a good place, she probably would have stopped it too. So things keep going, and everyone's like, what's going on? Portia is like, this is crazy. What's happening? Drew is like, we're circling the rabbit hole. Like, what's going on? So then Kelly leaves. Kelly leaves after she was like, who is this whole thing? And so she was like, girl, I'm not about to sit here and be a part of somebody disrespecting my friend. So she walks out of the building, and Britt is like, is it time to go? She was like, yeah, girl, because she doing too much. Next thing you know, Kenya pulls out the picture, and I guess it's a picture of Britt sucking dick, because you hear Cynthia say, I'm not looking at nobody sucking dick. Are you serious? And everybody was gagged. That one lady in the audience was like, you had Angela. And then on the screen, it goes black, and it says, due to the graphic nature of these photographs, Bravo has chosen not to exhibit them. Kyla, however you say Kenya's friend's name, she's like, girl. So everyone's just like, this ain't right. This ain't right. You got Shamia being Kenya. This is too far. And Kenya is like, girl, shut up. That girl threatened me with a gun. I'm doing what I need to do. Everyone is just gagged at this point. You got people leaving the establishment because they don't want to be a part of it. You then see Portia, Shamia, and Angela on the side of the road, just like, girl, this is crazy. Like, this too much. Angela ends up saying that she feels bad for encouraging Britt to come to the establishment, like come to the party, because she's like, and that was there waiting for her, like I feel embarrassed for her because I would be mortified if that was me. Like, this is too much. Shamia was like, girl, this ain't it. This ain't it. You got Drew and Cynthia having a conversation, and Cynthia's like, I don't like what just happened. I don't like that. You had it to the point where back outside, Portia is telling production, get the camera off of me. I wish, no, because I don't condone that, and you're not going to say I'm a part of that. You just not. And what's interesting is there's this viral clip of Dr. Heavenly on her YouTube channel talking about it, and I do agree with her to a certain extent. If it was so bad and y'all don't condone it, why are y'all still profiting off of it? Why are you still showing us this if you don't condone it? So that makes you look at Bravo sideways, because you're chastising Kenya, which I understand, reprimanding her, but yet you're still showing us the content and you're making money off of it. That don't make sense to me. So Kenya ends up thanking everybody for being there, but you can see in her face, she kind of realized this didn't land the way she thought it was, because people left. Like, people were leaving as she was talking. And so Cynthia was like, before I go, I need to say this. She was like, I really hate you let it get this way. I don't know Britt, but I know you, and I know you're bigger and better than this. And then Kenya says, and I think, she was like, yeah, but she was like, I'm tired of being blatantly disrespected. And I felt bad for Kenya. And the reason why I felt bad for Kenya is when she gave that speech about working so hard and people disrespecting her, people like counting her out, you could definitely tell that I think she was so angry that she didn't vet her own idea. Because, sometimes when you get so mad, you have that first thought, but then when you sit with it and really think about it, you realize, okay, that's a bit too much. I feel like that's what happened to Kenya. Like, she went too far, and had she really sat down and sat with her thoughts, she probably would have been like, okay, this ain't it. I also think, like, she was so worried about them cutting out this salon portion that she felt like she had to do something big in order for them to film it. Because we know last season she had that whole grand opening, or that soft launch, and they filmed it but didn't put it into the show. But I also feel like, Kenya, the network don't rock with you like that. You are not one of the favorites, and you for sure know that you couldn't get away with doing something like this. Even though I think the best example of how there's a double standard is on Real Housewives of New Jersey, when Joe Gorga and the men were looking at Danielle's sex tape and he was passing his phone around. That to me is the equivalent to what Kenya just did to Britt. But yet Joe and them get to still film. And granted, they not paid, but they don't get paid. I don't know. Some people have said they do get paid. The Bravo husband, they get paid on just Real Housewives of New Jersey, but I feel like they should have been reprimanded. We shouldn't have seen scenes of the men passing around her sex tape on a phone. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it went too far. And even though I feel like Kenya is definitely justified in her feelings, her anger, her fear, everything, this just wasn't the route to go. And I hate that she did it at her own event, because now this is overshadowing your hair salon. On top of that, you crashing out online because you can tell that the stress really got to Kenya, and this situation is really eating at her, and she's not handling it the right way. Because if I was her, I would be quiet until the season is over, because let things play out. Let the ratings drop. Let people say how much they miss you, how much they want to see you, but don't be going back and forth with the network people. The whole situation is just chaotic. It's messy. My final thoughts: Kenya was definitely wrong. She was. But Britt was wrong, and production should have they should have chastised her. Again, I feel like they should have paused for a week, let the women cool off, and then commence to filming again. Force Kenya and Britt to actually have a conversation, and then we move on. I think continuous to film without a conversation was wild to me. It was just crazy. It was crazy. And to not take a threat of somebody, like threatening somebody with a weapon, it's crazy to me as well. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in them comments below and subscribe. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.